parents to take the initiative to schedule and do all of that.
Yeah.
So that sometimes can be difficult, but
There are definitely pros and cons of everything.
but I don't want to have you guys think that Dr. Wheaton doesn't want referrals.
No.
Because I think if you're concerned about the child, refer them. It is, I'd much rather see kids that are doing great than missing a child that is, could slip through the cracks and be that 5-year-old that shows up in kindergarten.
If I can add just a little bit of a different perspective to that, or to build on that. So I mentioned our early intervention experience was really less than stellar. We had one really great therapist, she was great, but the whole process it wasn't, she's still great. No, but this is when we lived in the city. And anyway, long story short, like our coordinator quit, didn't tell us. I had two developmental therapists that quit, and just didn't show. It was just awful. Anyway, so at the beginning, they were like, oh, do you want to be on this list? I didn't know what a medical diagnostic was. They were like, oh, it's for autism. That's what she said to me.
Oh.
And that is the most terrifying word that you can hear. We weren't even thinking. I was like, she's just not speaking yet. Like, what,
Right.
Anyway. So then by the time it comes, they said, oh, she doesn't need this. She's not autistic. And so now, fast forward now, and I'm a 6, and I've learned so much more. I wish that I would have taken that appointment because we still don't know what's going on. There's still so many question marks. So I think as parents, we get this in our head, it's either autism or they're fine. I think that's kind of the prevailing thing. It's either autism or it's not. And that's not true. That's not true. There's so many other things going on. So I would say don't blow people off either.
Right.
If it's just not autism.
Right, well, and there were a lot of other diagnoses that we saw in the clinic, and then there are some,
Sure.
like ADHD don't make that diagnosis at 2 or 3 years old. So
Sure.
maybe that's what we were seeing in some of the not autism.
Right, maybe it's more sensory,
For sure.
a way to explain things at that age,
For sure.
I would just say, from the provider perspective, that it also depends, when do you have initial evaluation? If it's closer to the 3rd year, you
Yeah.
can mention it. If it's like, let's say, right at the age of 2,
Right.
I think it's enough overwhelming for the parents to have arena assessment from early intervention on top of adding a medical diagnostic, and everybody's freaked out. Just maybe mention something like this is viable, and really some of the kids that was, I hear a lot of times, like if he would be evaluated when we started, he would definitely have diagnosis. But since we were like progressing with the therapies, 6 months, we can refer it and say this is a good way of checking before he turns or she turns 3 and goes to school, so we can have better services for the child. But we see how the changes are going. Changes are so. I usually don't like to rush on the initial evaluation because it really scares parents off right away. It's like, what do you mean? It's just the speech, right? And it's not. Yeah.
Always the speech.
Absolutely. I can tell you, even coming to the medical diagnostic, I'll say, okay, what are your concerns? Oh, only speech, only speech.
Right.
And oh, well, look what's happening,
And
it's
I don't
not
know
just
how
speech.
many,
right?
you have how many situations, and it's hard to determine if it's just a sensory-based kid or it's on the spectrum. And this kind of takes time to weed out throughout the therapies later on, so.
Absolutely.
I think that some things are very obvious, you just know.
Sometimes.
You just know after 3 visits, 4 visits, you know. And sometimes you don't. It's a thin ice, I would say, and you have to really be very careful with the emotions at home with the parents, because you have to be aware of that. And sometimes you have to introduce parents to many, many things they have no idea about. You have to coach them, tell them about things, and just, you can't just shoot things at them because it's really paralyzed everybody. I think you just have to use a common sense in all those situations, I feel like. And every family is different, and everybody is different.
Mhm.
And you have to accommodate, you have to kind of watch what you're doing. And I think there's no golden recipe for anything.
Do our best.
It's the personality of the child, family personalities, and you have to be a politician kind of.
So like we were saying, it's kind of, a lot of people think it's autism or not autism, and that's what you get out of medical diagnostic. often do you recommend a child go for additional testing somewhere else? So like, as, you know, I sometimes have families who were concerned or they're not sure what's going on, and so we recommend, you know, if they don't have it, specifically if they don't have private insurance, we'll go to a medical diagnostic team to hope that maybe they'll recommend a geneticist, maybe they'll recommend an endocrinologist, maybe, you know, so how often do you kind of encounter that opportunity? And then does that help, having those recommendations from the medical diagnostic team, does that help when it comes to a family on public aid or the medical card? Does it help them get, you know, if it helps them get those kind of more specialists that may not have been able to?
Yeah, well, for a lot of families, this may be the longest time they spend with a doctor and the most thorough evaluation that the child gets from a doctor. And sometimes we do identify, hey, there's a lot of snoring going on, and sleep is an issue, and they're really cranky and irritable. Look at those tonsils, they're pretty big, maybe we need to see an ENT. Sometimes just making sure we get the hearing test is important. And so, yeah, I think that there are many of the clinics, and I know we know a lot of clinics out there that are very high volume, FQHC, federally qualified healthcare centers, who may not have a lot of time to go in depth with families and ask a lot of these questions. So yeah, we do pick up on a lot more medical issues, and we do a lot of referrals to genetics for if there are any called dysmorphic features for a child, or if there are a couple of signs that, okay, this could point to an underlying genetic condition, or we need additional genetic testing. So, so absolutely, it does lead more often than not, I can say, to more opportunities for evaluation, medical tests, blood tests. You know, a child that's putting a whole lot of things into their mouth. A lot of people forget they could be being exposed to lead, and a higher lead level could interfere with development and developmental progress. And so just doing things like that. You know, they're drinking a whole lot of milk and not eating a lot of foods. Could they be iron deficient and anemia and causing developmental problems from that? So yes, there's a lot that we can go into, or yeah, lots of little things out there that I've got to look for. Hopefully that answers that. And I know, just want to be mindful of time. We have about, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that this session was also what you guys were expecting or wanted to discuss, or make sure we haven't like monopolized the conversation. And also, have we, and I know we need to get to question and answer too, but so far is all this okay, or do you want to see this go any other direction? Is everyone okay so far?
We're all good. If you want some snacks, there are more snacks. I really went crazy on the snacks, so eat them. Eat the cookies. And I just wanna, I wanna say something. Dr. Whedon is on the board of City Support with me. And one of the things that I just wanna mention, because we're talking about medical diagnosis and, you know, is it this, is it this, is it this? Generally, when a child gets a diagnosis, their family support system opens up, you know? It's like, oh, it is autism, I can check out Autism Speaks, or I could check out, you know, this, you know, Rett syndrome, or whatever it is, you know? And I have access to all of these communities. And so we purposefully call this Children in Therapy and You, because we don't need to worry about the diagnosis. So whatever, you know, whatever it may be, and as hard as you are as a detective to try and narrow this down, it may just be a changing thing, you know? And so this community doesn't talk, I mean, we do talk about it, but we don't care really what the diagnosis is.
Not limited to any particular.
Yeah, I mean, we care, but you know, so that was just throwing that out there as well.
It'll be a welcoming community to everyone. Not like you have to have the ticket of the diagnosis to get into the door.
Right, show us your card.
Yeah.
So I hope you're handing that out at the medical diagnosis.
Yeah, we have our cards.
So,
You can check in on this. There you go.
See, yeah.
I do have another question for the parents. what would you tell another parent who was just referred for a diagnostic? What would you tell them? You could give them like.
Should we pull up your Facebook post?
Seriously.
Maybe get some nice comments on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's weekly, these
Yeah.
questions, you know.
I totally have, I'm pretty sure that I posted, like, what can I expect, and now I'm the one answering
Isn't
what.
that nice?
Ah, that's me. I love it. So, I'm sorry, your question was, what can you expect
What would
from?
you tell, what would you tell
Oh,
a
what
parent?
would
So
I
a parent
tell?
comes and says, I was just diagnosed, I just was recommended for a medical diagnostic clinic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
usually.
What now?
Usually,
Deer in the headlights, scary look.
Usually I tell them to bring snacks and have like a video handy because that is good information to have. And then if they're scared about it or like feeling nervous, you're really just doing the best thing you can for your child, which is finding out if there are other ways to support your child and to support what they have. Or, find what their strengths are and build off of those. And you really do get good data from it too. Like, you get a ton of information, you leave the same day with like a 2 or 3 page little sheet, and then a few weeks later you get like a 13-page thing. And there are good recommendations in there of, things you can work on. So it kind of helps you to set goals too for your child.
Did you bring another person with you, or was it just you and your child?
And my husband.
And your
Yeah,
husband.
and my husband as well.
We usually suggest that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not possible, but it can be helpful.
Yeah.
And I would also say, just from my point of view, bring only one child, the child that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Try to get a sitter. I know it may not be always possible, but please, it helps so much if we're just focusing our attention on one child.
I would say also, it can be really emotional, hearing all that stuff. And then I found it to be just kind of, I don't know what the word would be, but I was very nervous after the therapist observed him and then left to go talk about it. So I remember I was sitting there with my husband, and I just like burst into tears because I was just like, what are they gonna say? What are they gonna, so just thinking about that piece, it's emotional.
And I remember being in the room with you guys and just going over, some of it's like scoring and, looking over my notes and everything. And I just remember, like, if somebody said something not related, that was like something going on later in the day, I'm like, my mom's in there waiting, like in my head, I'm like, they're looking at the clock,
Yeah.
like,
When are they
I don't care what
We're
I'm
not
eating
having
for lunch,
social hour.
we have to,
Yeah.
I know,
Keep going.
which is tricky because we're all friends. But no, I imagined what you just described.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
And it's
scary,
hard for
but-
us too.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But, yeah.
Did you have a lot of situations when you didn't agree on the same outcome?
Sometimes there is, yes, there is. So we do have to come to a consensus as a team. The teams that I work with currently, we have been working together for a very long time. And so I think it's more of an issue if there are members of the team that maybe haven't worked together as much, or if there's particularly, this is all the elements of having a good team. Someone with a particularly strong personality or outspokenness, that, okay, everybody has to agree with what I say, doesn't work well on the teams that we have. So we do need to, we look at that when we're developing our teams. And if you do have something to say, you better be backing it up with, it's not just, oh, this is how my unsure, no, we need to know exactly why you think that. And as a team, we've got to be all on the same page before we come back to the family. Otherwise, this whole thing doesn't work. And so that sometimes it might take a little bit longer for our discussion to make sure that we're all on the same page. But we use a lot of instruments, tools, and we even have one that we fill out all together as a team. That's an autism assessment. I know, again, we're talking about autism a lot, but we have a team assessment where we're all grading children on like a 16-point question scale, and we're doing all that together. So that is sort of like a team consensus document that we come up with. So it's good that way to get everybody on the same page too.
What's the
That's a good
oldest-
question.
Oh, sorry, what's the oldest kid you've put through a medical diagnostic like this? Like that has missed the boat through DI?
Okay, I was gonna say, we have kids like, they're turning 3 the next
The next
day.
day.
Yeah, but that's the, because 3 is the cutoff for the medical diagnostic. Our developmental pediatrics department goes up to 18 years old. We do have what we've tried to put together as a, and I'm not trying to advertise or anything like that, so we do have a little bit of sort of a medical diagnostic clinic for kids over 3 that we do like 3 to 8 years old that we try to pull in. But once kids get a little older, things get more complicated because you've got school evaluations, you've got academics, who've got to do better IQ testing, everything takes longer.